The Council's dismissal. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation floated in the void between stars, a masterpiece of engineering that housed representatives from 300 civilized worlds. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the central podium, her dark hair tied back, her expression calm despite the weight of billions depending on her words. Around her, the circular tiers rose like an amphitheater, filled with beings of every imaginable form. Some breathed methane, others existed as energy patterns, and a few defied description entirely. Sarah had prepared for this moment for 6 months. Behind her, holographic displays showed the evidence humanity had gathered. Burned settlements, stolen resources, the faces of colonists who would never return home. 23 human colonies had suffered attacks in the past year, all perpetrated by the same aggressor. The Supreme Arbiter, a crystalline being called Nexar, shimmered at the highest tier. Its voice resonated through the translation matrix that allowed all species to communicate. Ambassador Chen of Earth, you have requested this emergency session. The Federation acknowledges your presence. Present your grievance. Sarah touched her datapad and the holographic displays expanded. Honored members of the Federation, humanity comes before you seeking justice and protection under the Covenant of Civilized Worlds. For the past standard year, the Xinthian Collective has systematically attacked our colonies in the Outer Rim territories. These attacks have resulted in 4,700 deaths, all civilians. We have documentation, survivor testimony, and recovered weapon signatures proving Xinthian involvement. From the Xinthian section, a ripple of what might have been laughter echoed. High Commander Vexthor rose, his 6 legs clicking against the metal platform. The Xinthians resembled massive insects. Their chitinous armor naturally evolved for warfare. Vexthor's mandibles clicked with amusement as he spoke. The humans complain because they cannot defend what they claim to own. By Federation law, any species that cannot protect its territorial claims forfeits them to stronger civilizations. This is the natural order. Sarah had expected this response. She remained calm, her voice steady. We understand Federation law, Commander. We understand that military strength often determines territorial rights in this part of the galaxy. But humanity joined the Federation under the promise of protection for developing colonies. We paid our dues. We contributed to Federation defense funds. We upheld every treaty and agreement. In return, we expected the Federation to honor its commitments. Nexar's crystalline form pulsed with light. The Xinthian Collective claims your colonies occupy strategic resource zones. They argue that humanity lacks the industrial capacity to properly utilize these resources. Do you dispute their assessment of your capabilities? Sarah glanced at her assistant, Dr. James Morrison, who stood quietly behind her. He was a military historian, brought specifically for this moment. She nodded to him and he stepped forward, his weathered face showing the years he had spent studying humanity's violent past. Supreme Arbiter, if I may address the Council, James said. Nexar granted permission with a pulse of blue light. James activated a new set of displays. What I am about to show you is not meant as a threat. It is meant as context, as a warning. The holographic displays shifted, showing images from Earth's history, ancient armies clashing with bronze weapons, medieval sieges where castles burned and populations starved, industrial-era trenches filled with mud and death, nuclear mushroom clouds rising over cities. The images continued, each more devastating than the last. Humanity's history is written in blood, James said quietly. For 10,000 years, we perfected the art of killing our own kind. We developed weapons capable of ending all life on our planet, chemical agents that dissolved flesh, biological weapons that turned our bodies against us, nuclear arsenals that could render Earth uninhabitable for millennia. We came within minutes of using them multiple times. The chamber had grown silent. Even the Xinthians had stopped their clicking laughter. James continued, his voice carrying to every tier. 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves in what we call the final conflict. 3 billion dead in 5 years. Our cities reduced to radioactive wastelands. Our oceans poisoned. Our atmosphere burning. We survived by the smallest margin, and in that survival we made a choice. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. We chose peace. Not because we were weak, but because we finally understood what our strength could do. We locked away our weapons of mass destruction. We dismantled our war machines. We dedicated ourselves to exploration, science, and cooperation. When we reached the stars and found the Federation, we decided to show the galaxy our best achievements. our art, our music, our medicine, our philosophy. We did not show you our talent for warfare. Sarah stepped forward again. That was a deliberate choice. We wanted to prove that humanity had evolved beyond our violent nature. We wanted to be known as builders, not destroyers. For 50 years, we have maintained that image. We have been peaceful neighbors, generous trading partners, and willing contributors to Federation initiatives. She turned to face Vexthor directly. But peace was a choice we made, Commander. It was not our nature. It was not weakness. It was strength of will, choosing every single day to be something better than what we were. And now you have forced us to reconsider that choice. Vexthor's mandibles clacked with disdain. The humans make dramatic speeches to hide their inadequacy. If you possessed true military strength, you would use it. Your pretty words about choosing peace are simply excuses for being unable to wage war. Sarah's expression did not change, but something cold entered her eyes. You misunderstand us, Commander. We are not unable to wage war. We are choosing not to. There is a profound difference. Every human child learns about the final conflict. Every human knows what happens when we unleash our darker nature. We remember, and that memory keeps us peaceful. She activated another display, this one showing current human colony populations, families farming, scientists researching, children playing in settlements under foreign suns. These are the people you have been attacking, Commander. Farmers, teachers, researchers. They came to these worlds to build new lives, not to fight wars. They trusted that the Federation would protect them, as promised in our membership agreement. Nexar's voice resonated through the chamber. The Federation must consider all perspectives. High Commander Vexthor, why should the Xinthian collective's claims supersede humanity's existing settlements? Vexthor clicked triumphantly. Because we have the strength to take what we need and they have the weakness to lose it. This is how the galaxy has always functioned. The strong expand, the weak adapt or perish. Humanity is too soft, too sentimental. They will not fight because they cannot fight. Their history of self-destruction proves they lack the discipline for coordinated warfare. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she looked up at Nexar. Supreme Arbiter, we are not asking for military intervention. We are not asking the Federation to fight our battles. We are simply asking you to enforce your own laws and honor your agreements. Place sanctions on the Xinthian collective. Recognize our territorial claims as legitimate. Give us the diplomatic support we were promised when we joined. She paused, and her next words came out softer, sadder. Because if you do not, if you force us to defend ourselves alone, the galaxy will learn things about humanity that we have worked very hard to leave behind. We are begging you, please do not make us remember what we are capable of. The chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives debated, argued, and consulted with their home governments. Sarah stood at the podium, watching the chaos she had unleashed with her warning. James moved beside her and spoke quietly. Do you think they understand what we are trying to tell them? Sarah shook her head slightly. No, they think we are bluffing. They think our peace is weakness rather than restraint. They have never seen humanity at war, so they cannot imagine what it looks like. The debate continued for hours. Species argued about territorial rights, resource allocation, military strength, and Federation law. The Xinthians maintained that humanity's inability to defend their colonies proved their unworthiness to hold them. Other species expressed sympathy for humanity's position, but hesitation to intervene against a militarily powerful member, like the Xinthian collective. Finally, Nexar called for order and silence. The Federation Council will now vote on humanity's petition for protection and recognition of territorial claims. The voting process was complex, involving weighted representation based on each species' contribution to the Federation. The results appeared on the central display in Galactic Standard Notation. The petition was denied, 230 votes to 70. Sarah felt the weight of those numbers like a physical blow. 4,700 dead, and the galaxy had decided their deaths did not matter enough. She took a slow breath, steadying herself. She had prepared for this possibility, hoped against it, but prepared nonetheless. Supreme Arbiter, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the assembly. Humanity accepts this decision. We will not petition again. We will not bring further complaints to this council. We will handle our territorial security through our own means. Vexthor clicked with satisfaction. The humans finally accept reality. They will abandon their indefensible colonies and retreat to their core systems. This is wise. Sarah turned to face him fully. No, Commander. We will not abandon anything. We will defend what is ours, but we will do so without Federation oversight, without Federation rules, and without Federation mercy. She tapped her datapad one final time, and a new image appeared. It was simple, almost stark in its minimalism. A memorial wall on Earth, black stone stretching for kilometers covered in names, billions of names from the final conflict. This is what happens when humanity goes to war with itself, Sarah said quietly. Imagine what happens when we go to war with someone else. Someone who does not understand our psychology, our tactics, our complete willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Someone who has never faced an enemy that remembers 10,000 years of perfecting the art of killing. She looked up at Nexar. We came here in peace, and we begged for your help in staying peaceful. You have refused, so be it. But when this is over, when the Xinthian collective is broken, when their worlds burn and their warriors scream for mercy they will not receive, remember this moment. Remember that we warned you. Remember that we tried. James sent an encrypted message from his datapad. It reached Earth in seconds, traveling through the quantum communication network that connected human space. 3 words appeared on President Michael Torres's screen in the emergency command center beneath Geneva. They did not listen. President Torres sat in silence for a long moment, surrounded by his military advisors and cabinet members. He was 78 years old, had spent his entire life working for peace, and now faced the decision he had hoped never to make. He looked at General Rebecca Stone, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. She met his gaze with steady eyes. Madam President, she asked quietly. Torres thought about the colonists on New Terra, the latest colony to send a distress signal. He thought about his granddaughter who lived on Kepler Station with her family. He thought about the promises he had made to protect all humans, everywhere they chose to build their lives. Protocol Fenrir, he said finally. Full authorization. God help us all. General Stone nodded once, her face showing no emotion. She had been waiting for this order since the attacks began. She activated her command interface and sent the authorization codes that would unlock military capabilities humanity had kept hidden for 200 years. Across human space, in secret facilities orbiting dead moons and hidden in asteroid fields, ancient weapon systems came online. Shipyards that appeared to be civilian manufacturing centers revealed their true purpose. Reserve forces that officially did not exist received activation orders. And in the offices of the Strategic Warfare Division, analysts who had spent decades studying alien psychology and tactics finally got their chance to apply their knowledge. On New Terra, Commander Marcus Webb stood on the command deck of the cargo hauler Horizon's Promise, watching the Xinthian warships approach. His ship was not designed for combat, carried only basic defensive weapons, and faced enemies with overwhelming firepower. The 800 civilians in the colony below had already begun evacuating to emergency shelters, but they would not survive a sustained assault. Marcus was 45 years old, a veteran of the merchant marine who had seen enough of the galaxy to understand how it really worked. He had been delivering agricultural equipment when the attack began. Now he found himself as the only thing standing between the colonists and annihilation. His communication officer, a young woman named Lisa Park, looked at him with barely controlled fear. Commander, they are hailing us. They are demanding we surrender the colony and evacuate immediately. They say they will destroy anyone who resists. Marcus studied the tactical display. 3 Xinthian cruisers, each outfitted with enough firepower to level the colony in minutes. His cargo hauler's shields would last perhaps 30 seconds under that kind of assault. By every logical calculation, he should surrender, save his crew, and hope the Xinthians kept their word about allowing evacuation. But then his encrypted military channel activated, showing a priority message from Earth Defense Command. He read it twice, not quite believing what he was seeing. Then he smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Lisa, he said calmly, inform the Xinthians that we decline their generous offer. Tell them New Terra is human territory and we do not respond well to threats. Lisa stared at him. Commander, they will destroy us. Maybe, Marcus agreed, but not before I buy enough time for what is coming. He activated the colony-wide emergency channel. All New Terra residents, this is Commander Webb. I need you to hold on for 6 hours. I know that seems impossible, but I promise you, help is coming. Help like the galaxy has never seen before. The Xinthian response was immediate. All three cruisers opened fire, and Marcus Webb's last stand began. The Horizon's promise shuddered under the impact. Shields failing, hull breaching, systems going critical. But Marcus kept his ship between the Xinthians and the colony, kept firing his inadequate weapons, kept buying minutes that turned into hours. When his ship finally died, breaking apart in a cascade of explosions, Marcus Webb went down with it. But he had bought 5 hours and 43 minutes. 17 minutes short of his promise, but enough. Just barely enough. Because 57 light-years away, Admiral Catherine Morrison's fleet was already in motion, and humanity was about to remind the galaxy why some species should never be provoked. The reckoning Admiral Catherine Storm Morrison stood on the bridge of the battle carrier Unbroken Will, watching the stars blur into streams of light as her fleet traveled through slipspace. At 52 years old, she was the youngest admiral in Earth Defense Command's history, promoted not through politics, but through an unmatched ability to think 3 moves ahead of any opponent. Her crew called her Storm because of her tactical approach, swift, overwhelming, and utterly merciless when necessary. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. This was not the crew of a patrol vessel or diplomatic escort. These were military professionals who had trained for a war they hoped would never come. Now that it had, they moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, each person knowing their role in the violence about to unfold. Commander David Chen, her second in command, approached with a datapad. Admiral, final fleet status. 48 vessels accounted for and in formation. All weapon systems operational. All crew members at battle stations. We will reach New Terra in 90 minutes. Catherine nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the tactical display that showed her fleet's composition. To anyone familiar with Federation military standards, the human fleet would seem impossibly small for what they were about to attempt. The Xinthian occupation force at New Terra consisted of 15 warships, including the 3 cruisers that had destroyed Marcus Webb's vessel. Standard Federation military doctrine would require at least a 2-to-1 advantage to assault such a force with acceptable casualty rates. Catherine's fleet was outnumbered 3-to-1. But Federation doctrine had never encountered human military thinking. The 48 ships under her command represented capabilities the galaxy had never imagined. For 200 years, humanity had maintained the fiction of being a peaceful, scientifically advanced species with minimal military capacity. That fiction had been useful, profitable even. It had allowed human intelligence services to study every military power in the galaxy without appearing threatening. Now that study period was over, and the examination was about to become practical. Commander Chen, Catherine said quietly, activate Protocol Nightfall. I want complete sensor blackout around New Terra before we arrive. The Xinthians should not know we are coming until we are already there. Chen smiled grimly. Already in progress, Admiral. Our advanced stealth drones entered the system 2 hours ago. They are releasing electromagnetic chaff that will appear as natural cosmic interference. Xinthian sensors will be degraded by approximately 70%. Catherine pulled up the file on Marcus Webb, the commander who had bought them the time they needed. She studied his face, read his service record, noted his wife and 2 daughters living on Europa Station. He had been a cargo hauler captain, not a warrior. Yet he had stood against impossible odds because someone needed to. She made a mental note to personally deliver his commendations to his family when this was over, if she survived to do so. All ships, Catherine broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Morrison. In 30 minutes we will engage Xinthian forces at New Terra. This is not a Federation-sanctioned military operation. This is not a police action. This is war. The kind of war humanity swore we would never wage again. But they did not leave us a choice. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The Xinthians think we are weak because we chose peace. They think our restraint was inability rather than discipline. They are about to learn the truth. They are about to learn that when humanity goes to war, we do not fight for glory or honor or territorial expansion. We fight to win, completely and permanently. We fight to ensure that our enemy never threatens us again. The crew listened in absolute silence. What we are about to do will terrify the galaxy. Other species will fear us, perhaps hate us. But they will also respect us. And they will never again mistake our desire for peace as an inability to wage war. Remember Commander Webb. Remember the 4,000 colonists who died because the Federation would not protect them. Remember that we tried every peaceful option before reaching this point. Catherine's voice hardened. Now show them what happens when peace fails. Show them what humanity becomes when we stop being civilized. All ships, battle stations, weapons free, no mercy. The fleet dropped out of slipspace at the edge of New Terra's system with perfect synchronization. Immediately, Catherine's plan began unfolding with clockwork precision. The Xinthian sensors, already degraded by the electromagnetic chaff, registered only a fraction of the arriving human ships. Their tactical computers calculated odds based on visible targets and determined they maintained superior force advantage. High Commander Zarketh, leader of the Xinthian occupation fleet, clicked his mandibles in satisfaction when the sensor alerts sounded. The humans sent a small fleet to challenge us. Perhaps they have more spirit than we believed. Prepare to destroy them quickly and continue with the colony subjugation. His tactical officer, a younger Xinthian named Vixal, studied the readings with concern. Commander, our sensors are experiencing significant interference. I cannot get an accurate count of enemy vessels. I recommend we maintain defensive formation until sensor clarity improves. Zarketh's mandibles clacked in dismissal. Excessive caution. Human technology is inferior. Even if they have hidden additional ships in the interference, we maintain numerical and technological superiority. All vessels, attack formation. Destroy the human fleet. It was exactly the response Catherine had predicted. Human intelligence had studied Xinthian military psychology extensively. They were aggressive, confident in their natural armor and combat prowess, and they had never lost a major engagement in 300 years of expansion. That perfect record had made them arrogant, unable to conceive of an enemy that could truly threaten them. Target locks confirmed on all Xinthian vessels, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the weapons station. Awaiting your order, Admiral. Catherine watched the Xinthian fleet break formation and advance, exactly as her tactical simulations had predicted. Fire. The weapons that emerged from human ships were unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. Railguns accelerated projectiles to relativistic speeds, crossing the distance between fleets in seconds. Each projectile carried enough kinetic energy to punch through Xinthian shields as if they were not there. The Xinthians relied on energy shields designed to deflect energy weapons and conventional missiles. They had no defense against solid matter moving at a significant fraction of light speed. 3 Xinthian destroyers simply ceased to exist, torn apart by impacts that released energy equivalent to nuclear detonations. The other ships scattered, finally recognizing the threat they faced. Zarketh stared at his tactical display in disbelief as his fleet's casualty reports began flooding in. "What weapons are those?" he demanded. "Our shield should be impervious to projectile weapons." Vixal worked frantically at his console. "Commander, those are not conventional projectiles. The velocity readings are impossible. They are traveling at 0.3 light speed. Our shields were never designed to stop that much kinetic energy. But the railguns were only the beginning. Human ships released drone swarms, thousands of small autonomous units that moved with evasive patterns too complex for Xinthian targeting computers to track. Each drone carried a fusion warhead and rudimentary AI capable of independent decision-making. They swarmed the Xinthian vessels like angry insects, overwhelming point defense systems through sheer numbers. Zarketh watched in growing horror as his fleet died around him. All ships retreat to defensive positions around the planet. Use the colony as a shield. The humans will not risk hitting their own people. It was a logical assumption based on human behavior patterns. Every interaction the Xinthians had with humanity suggested they were sentimental, placing individual lives above strategic considerations. It was a weakness Xinthian commanders had exploited repeatedly in their raids. Catherine Morrison smiled coldly when the Xinthian fleet retreated to orbit around New Terra. "They still do not understand us. Commander Chen, deploy the surgical strike packages." What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. Human ships released specialized drones equipped with quantum-entangled targeting systems and precision munitions. These drones coordinated through instantaneous communication, calculating firing solutions that would hit Xinthian ships while avoiding any trajectory that could possibly strike the planet below. The mathematics involved were staggering, requiring computational power that exceeded anything the Federation believed humans possessed. Each drone had to account for the planet's gravity well, the rotation of both planet and ships, the trajectories of thousands of other drones, and the evasive maneuvers of enemy vessels. The calculations were performed millions of times per second, with zero margin for error. The Xinthian ships discovered that hiding behind New Terra provided no protection at all. Human weapons struck them from impossible angles, threading through gaps in their formations that should not have existed, curving around gravitational fields in ways that violated Xinthian understanding of physics. Ships exploded, life support failed, reactors went critical, and throughout it all, not a single human weapon came within 10 kilometers of the planet's atmosphere. Zarketh's flagship shuddered as a railgun round tore through its engine section. Emergency alarms wailed and half his bridge displays went dark. "Surrender!" He clicked frantically into the communication system. "We surrender. Cease fire. By Federation law, you must accept our surrender." Catherine heard the transmission and felt nothing resembling mercy. "Negative, Commander Zarketh. Federation law does not apply here. You made that very clear when you attacked our colonies. This is not a Federation action. This is human justice." Zarketh felt something he had never experienced in combat: genuine terror. "Please, Admiral Morrison. My crew consists of 12,000 beings. Most have never even participated in raids on your colonies. They are innocent of those crimes." Catherine's voice remained cold. "Commander Marcus Webb had a crew of 23 when you destroyed his ship. None of them had ever fired a weapon in anger. The colonists on New Terra included 4,000 children. Tell me, Commander, where was your mercy then?" But even as she spoke, Catherine was already implementing the next phase of her plan. She was not here to commit genocide, no matter how much the Xinthians deserved it. She was here to send a message that would resonate across every star system in the galaxy. "All Xinthian vessels, you have 30 seconds to evacuate your ships via escape pods. Any ship still occupied after that deadline will be destroyed with all hands. This is your only warning." The Xinthian fleet erupted in chaos as crews abandoned their vessels. Escape pods launched in all directions, each packed with warriors who had never imagined fleeing from battle. Catherine's fleet held fire, allowing the evacuation to proceed. Exactly 30 seconds later, automated firing sequences engaged. 15 Xinthian warships died in coordinated strikes that left nothing but expanding debris fields. The escape pods, however, were left completely untouched. Human ships moved through the battlefield, collecting the pods and transporting them to designated holding areas on New Terra's surface. Zarketh found himself imprisoned in a human detention facility on the very colony he had been ordered to subjugate. The irony was not lost on him. Human guards treated the Xinthian prisoners according to strict protocols that ensured their safety, and basic needs were met, even providing environmental controls suited to Xinthian biology. It was more mercy than the Xinthians had ever shown their enemies, and that contrast burned worse than any weapon could have. But Catherine Morrison was not finished. From New Terra, her fleet split into multiple task forces, each assigned specific targets throughout Xinthian space. Over the next 3 weeks, humanity demonstrated warfare on a scale the galaxy had never imagined possible from such a supposedly peaceful species. Captain Jennifer Wu commanded the battleship Relentless Thunder in an assault on the Xinthian military academy at Hive Prime. The facility trained officer candidates and housed extensive databases on Xinthian military, tactics, and history. Jennifer's orders were precise: capture the facility intact, neutralize all resistance, and secure the databases without destroying them. The assault was textbook perfect, utilizing tactics that would not be developed by Federation militaries for another century. Human special forces infiltrated the facility using active camouflage that rendered them effectively invisible to Xinthian sensors. They disabled defensive systems from within, allowing Jennifer's forces to land without facing the Academy's formidable weapon arrays. Within 6 hours, the entire facility was under human control. Not a single student was killed, though several instructors who attempted armed resistance were efficiently neutralized. The captured databases provided humanity with complete insight into Xinthian military thinking, making future engagements even more one-sided. On the Xinthian fortress world of Chitanar, Commander Robert Singh faced a more challenging situation. The planet housed the collective's primary weapons research facility, protected by layered shields and a garrison of 50,000 elite warriors. Standard military doctrine would have required months of siege operations and massive casualties to capture such a target. Robert's solution was quintessentially human: He did not attack the fortress at all. Instead, his forces deployed atmospheric processors that released a specially designed biochemical agent. The agent was tailored specifically to Xinthian biology, targeting the neural pathways that controlled their aggressive responses while leaving all other functions intact. Within 48 hours, the entire garrison was incapacitated, unable to fight but suffering no permanent harm. Human forces walked into the fortress unopposed, captured every weapon system and research database, and departed before the effects wore off. The Xinthians recovered fully after 72 hours, but by then their most advanced research facility was in human hands. News of humanity's military capabilities spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had considered humans insignificant suddenly reassessed their positions. The galactic information networks filled with footage of human military operations, each one demonstrating capabilities that seemed impossible. The Galactic Federation called emergency sessions almost daily, trying to understand how they had so completely misjudged humanity's potential. Representatives who had voted against human protection now scrambled to distance themselves from that decision. Some species offered immediate military alliances with humanity, hoping to avoid becoming targets themselves. But the species watching most carefully were the ones who had seen this pattern before in their own histories. The Kelveran Union, an ancient civilization that had survived a dozen galactic wars, sent a private communication to Earth. Their message was simple. We recognize the path you walk. Be careful not to lose yourselves in the darkness. Even righteous anger can consume those who wield it. President Torres read that message in his office at 3 a.m, unable to sleep as casualty reports and victory notifications arrived in equal measure. Humanity was winning, dominating so completely that the outcome was no longer in question. But the cost was mounting, not in human lives, but in humanity's soul. 4 months after Catherine Morrison's first strike at New Terra, the Xinthian Collective's military capacity was effectively destroyed. Their fleet was scattered wreckage. Their fortresses were captured or neutralized. Their warrior caste, once the pride of their civilization, was demoralized and broken. The mighty empire that had conquered 17 species now faced complete subjugation. Catherine's fleet gathered in orbit above Xinthia Prime, the Collective's homeworld. 2 billion Xinthians lived on the planet below, watching their skies fill with human warships. They waited for the bombardment they knew was coming. The destruction that every other species had received when the Xinthians conquered them. But the bombardment never came. Instead, Catherine Morrison's face appeared on every communication system across the planet. Her image was transmitted to every home, every public space, every device capable of receiving signals. When she spoke, her voice carried to every Xinthian simultaneously. People of the Xinthian Collective, I am Admiral Catherine Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. Your military has been defeated. Your government's ability to wage war has been eliminated. By every standard of galactic warfare, we have won completely, and you are at our mercy. She paused, letting those words sink in. Your leaders told you that humanity was weak, that our peace was cowardice, that our restraint was inability. They were wrong about all of it. We showed you our true strength, our capacity for violence, our willingness to do whatever necessary to protect our people. We proved that when humanity goes to war, we win. Across Xinthia Prime, billions of beings listened in fearful silence. But winning was never the point, Catherine continued. We did not start this war to conquer you or destroy you. We started it because you gave us no choice, because your warriors massacred our colonists and the Galactic Federation refused to stop you. Because sometimes the only way to achieve peace is to demonstrate the costs of war so clearly that no one wants to fight again. Her expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained hard. Your planet will not be bombarded. Your cities will not burn. Your civilians will not suffer the fate you inflicted on ours. But your government is finished. Your military is disbanded. Your expansion is over. Humanity will occupy key positions in your space for the next 20 years, ensuring compliance. Any attempt to rebuild your military capacity will be met with immediate response. She leaned forward slightly. This is not mercy. This is pragmatism. We do not want an empire. We do not want territory or tribute or submission. We want to be left alone to build our colonies and live our lives in peace. We want a galaxy where strength does not automatically equal righteousness, where Federation laws actually protect those who follow them. Catherine's final words resonated across the planet. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you pushed humanity too far. Remember that we could have destroyed you completely and chose not to. And remember that choice was made once. It will not be made again. Never threaten human colonies. Never attack our people. Never mistake our desire for peace as weakness. Because the next time there will be no warning, no negotiations, and no mercy. There will only be extinction. The transmission ended, leaving 2 billion Zynthians to contemplate their survival and the species that had granted it. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Sarah Chen returned to the Galactic Federation chambers. The same circular tiers rose around her. The same diverse species filled the seats, but the atmosphere was completely different. Where before there had been dismissiveness and barely concealed contempt, now there was wariness and respect. Supreme Arbiter Nexar addressed her with careful politeness. Ambassador Chen, the Federation acknowledges humanity's military victory over the Zynthian collective. We also acknowledge that Federation law failed to protect your colonies as promised. The Council wishes to discuss new arrangements that will ensure human territorial rights are respected. Sarah stood at the podium where, 5 months earlier, she had begged for protection that was denied. The Federation's acknowledgement is noted but unnecessary. Humanity no longer requires Federation approval for our territorial claims. We will protect what is ours through our own strength, as the Zynthians so helpfully suggested. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Nexar's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. Ambassador, surely humanity does not wish to operate outside Federation framework. The benefits of membership. We're supposed to include protection, Sarah interrupted firmly. They were supposed to include enforcement of agreements and laws. Instead, we found that Federation membership meant paying dues for services never rendered, and protection never provided. 4,000 of our people died while the Federation debated and voted and ultimately abandoned us. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from 300 worlds. Humanity is not leaving the Federation. We will continue to participate in scientific exchanges, cultural programs, and trade relationships, but we will never again rely on this body for our security. We will never again assume that laws and treaties will protect us when military strength matters more. James Morrison stepped forward with new holographic displays. The galaxy has now seen what humanity is capable of when we stop being peaceful. You have seen weapons and tactics you did not know existed. You have seen us defeat in months an empire that took centuries to build. Some of you are frightened. Some are considering how to counteract our capabilities. Some are wondering if you should strike against us before we become too powerful. His voice hardened. Let me save you the trouble of that calculation. Every weapon system we deployed is already obsolete by human standards. The tactics we used are basic applications of principles we mastered a century ago. If any species, any alliance, any combination of forces attacks human territory, you will face capabilities that make what you have seen look primitive. Sarah nodded. But you will never face those capabilities unless you attack us first. Humanity has no interest in conquest or empire building. We want to explore, research, trade, and build good relationships with our neighbors. We want the galaxy we hope to find when we reach the stars, diverse, peaceful, and cooperative. She paused, and her voice carried genuine sadness. We showed you our monsters so you would never force us to unleash them again. The Zynthians learned that lesson at enormous cost. We hope the rest of the galaxy is wiser. Nexar pulsed with multiple colors, indicating complex emotional processing. What does humanity want from the Federation moving forward? Equal respect, Sarah said simply. Recognition that our peaceful nature is a choice, not a limitation. Acknowledgement that we have the strength to take what we want, but choose instead to negotiate and cooperate. And most importantly, assurance that if we are ever attacked again, the Federation will respond immediately rather than debating for months while our people die. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Nexar spoke. The Federation Council will draft new protective protocols for all member species. These protocols will ensure rapid response to any aggression against recognized territories. Humanity's claims in the Outer Rim are hereby recognized as legitimate and inviolate. Any species that violates these territories will face unified Federation response. It was everything Sarah had asked for 5 months ago. Everything that could have prevented a war if granted in time. She felt no satisfaction in receiving it now. Only bitter acknowledgement that sometimes peace required demonstrating the capacity for overwhelming violence. On Earth, President Torres stood in the Human Memorial Garden, where a new section had been dedicated to those who died in what historians were already calling the Xynthian War. 4,000 names were carved into black stone, joined now by the 217 soldiers and crew members who had died in combat operations. General Rebecca Stone stood beside him, her uniform displaying medals earned in battles she wished had never happened. "Was it worth it, Michael?" she asked quietly, using his first name in the privacy of the memorial. Torres did not answer immediately. He walked among the names, reading them, remembering the faces he had seen in casualty reports. "We saved lives," he said finally. "Every human colony is safe now. No one will dare attack us again." "In that sense, yes, it was worth it. But," Rebecca prompted, hearing the unspoken word, "but we also proved we are still the species we were trying to evolve beyond," Torres said quietly. "We showed the galaxy that humanity's civilization is just a thin layer over something dark and violent. We won through fear, not respect. Through overwhelming force, not moral authority. That is not the legacy I wanted to leave." Rebecca considered his words carefully. "Perhaps that is the price of survival in a galaxy that does not share our values. We tried the moral approach. We tried being peaceful, reasonable, civilized. It got 4,000 of our people killed. Sometimes the only way to achieve lasting peace is to make war so terrible that no one wants to risk starting another one." Torres looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear in the evening twilight. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was adjusting to the new reality of human military power. Species were recalculating their threat assessments, revising their diplomatic strategies, and learning to fear a species they had previously dismissed. "I hope you are right, Rebecca," he said softly. "I hope we did enough to secure lasting peace without losing ourselves in the process. Because if we become the monsters we showed them, if we start using our strength for conquest rather than protection, then we will have lost something far more valuable than any number of colonies." The memorial garden grew quiet as night fell, leaving only the eternal names carved in stone and two leaders contemplating the price of their choices. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Catherine Morrison prepared to stand down her fleet and return to the defensive posture humanity had maintained before the war. Her ships would be dispersed to protect colony worlds, their weapons would be powered down, and the galaxy would see humanity return to its peaceful pursuits. But the galaxy would never forget what it had seen. Humanity had reminded 300 civilizations of an ancient truth, that the most dangerous species are not the ones who seek war, but the ones who desperately want peace yet possess the capability to wage total war when given no other choice. The Galactic Federation would remember. The Xynthian Collective would remember. And most importantly, humanity would remember that the path from civilization to barbarism was shorter than anyone wanted to believe, requiring constant vigilance to avoid walking it again. In the end, humanity had achieved its goal: peace through strength, security through demonstrated capability, and respect through fear. Whether that was victory or tragedy depended on the perspective of the observer. But for the colonists on New Terra and the millions of other humans building lives on frontier worlds, it was enough. They could raise their children under foreign suns without fear of raids or massacres. They could build homes knowing those homes would be protected. They could look to the stars with hope rather than dread. And in a galaxy that often confused peace with weakness, humanity had finally made its nature clear. They wanted peace, would work tirelessly for peace, would sacrifice much for peace. But if forced to choose between peace and survival, they would wage war with a ferocity that made the ancient conquerors of Earth's history look merciful by comparison. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity prayed it would never need to teach it again.